This is the third week in a row that we've been doing this. I've kind of been doing it on Friday morning just for fun. Little Q&A kind of morning session thing where we attempt to learn something about CodePen, and I'm showing you my entire desktop for fun. Sometimes it's nice to scope it to just a window, but we might use a little drag and drop action. I might open up secondary browser windows and stuff depending on what we do. I should say that I will answer any question. So a lot of this is I'll show some stuff, but if you have questions, just ask. So the big thing, the super big deal this week, it's Friday now, but on Monday we released the public release of something called CodePen projects. And we have kind of an explainer page that shows what's going on. And this is just, this page just exists for like marketing. And so people can read it and understand what it is and stuff. But all y'all already CodePen users maybe don't need to see this. You just want to get into the action. But first, this is just the CodePen regular editor. We went over it a couple of weeks ago. I think a lot of people are already familiar with this. You just type words into here, words, and you can see the output of it. That's the meat and potatoes of CodePen land. And it works great for lots of stuff, and lots of people use it. There's been like 10 million pens created. I'm pretty confident that this is a cool thing in the world. But there's a lot of stuff that it's straight up limiting for. I've seen this happen in the wild many times. Is like somebody's teaching web development, and they're like, well, there's just this one HTML area, right? Like, how do I do the first thing that I want to do when teaching someone to build like a multi-page website is like have a home page, and then have an about page and hyperlink between the two. Like literally click, go see the about page, and you click it and you go to a different HTML file. That's like the root of the web. Of course, any web editor should be able to do and build something like that. You can't really do that in here. I mean, we could like Ajax load another page and replace the body or something, but there's some serious limitations to the pen editor on CodePen in that way. You can't really build a full-on website, a multi-page website. There's other things too, like I write Sass. I can write Sass in here if I want to, or I can write in Less or in Stylus or whatever. And you're so used to seeing stuff like this, import, partials or import or whatever you use. Import my typography as part of my Sass, and I have this Sass file, and then I have another Sass file where I keep my typography specific stuff in my Sass project. You can't really do this in CodePen because there's no file system. There's just this SCSS editor. So like there's a lot of limitations here in the pen editor, and that's why we built this whole project editor that I've been alluding to. So I'm not going to save this. I'm going to make a new project instead. So it's still under create. You know, you can write blog posts on CodePen. You can create pens. And now you can create projects as well. This is brand new this week to all users. Free users get this as well, although it's limited. It's kind of really unlocks itself with the pro plans. And this is what you see now. So along the left-hand side is a sidebar that can be full of your project file. So you can see that it's asking us now if we'd like to use a template. You can, and you can just click one of these and start with something, or you can totally start from scratch. Let's just start from scratch. I want to hopefully make the UI really clear that you don't have to use a template. You can just do whatever you want in here, just like the pen editor. So now I can make just any old file that I want to. I mean, it's limited by file type a little bit. If you try to make like index.php, it'll warn you like, hey, you can't really run PHP here, but you can do most front-end stuff. So I've made an index.html file. Another difference between this and the pen editor is that you have to kind of do the full doc type thing. So here's the Emmet's little shortcut to give me a full doc type. But you can literally see the doc type. You can see the HTML tag. We have a whole head section here. It's just like any other HTML document out there in the world. The CodePen editor kind of uses this as a template, and you just write what's here in the body, just as a helper boilerplate kind of thing. But here in the project editor, it's the whole kit and caboodle here. So what was I going to do? I was going to make an index file and an about file and click between them. One of those things that we established that you can't do particularly well in the pen editor. I'm just going to duplicate this file and rename it to about.html. I can have 10 HTML files in here, and it's just the way it is. So home page, I can hit save and run here, and it's going to render that. So it's just like CodePen that you're used to, in that the code that you write, you hit save, you see the results of that thing going on. We'll make some navigation. Let's say there's a URL in there, and there's the navigation to go to the about page. That's an anchor link. It goes to about.html, about, save. Let's copy all this. I know this is like not particularly the world's most interesting demo in the world, but about page, save. If we're on the index.html page and we're looking at it, I can now just click about and we go to the about page. So I've done the thing that I want to do. I have 2 HTML pages and I've hyperlinked them together. Real 101 stuff, but it kind of unlocks that something that is a teachable moment when, like if you're a teacher and you teach this to people, I think this can be kind of an empowering thing. Like, oh my God, I just made a multi-page website, rock and roll, Another, big clicking moment when you're teaching web design is the CSS thing. I can go style.css. I can write body, background, light salmon is my color of choice at the moment. Go to the index page. I can just type link tab, all the comforts of CodePen in there, like Emmet. I can link to this style.css and run it, and it's going to apply that color to the background. So you have a full file system here. There's no trickery. There's no, I don't know, it just assumes that this style is being used or anything. No, it's just like I was developing in Sublime Text locally or something, This is, you're seeing my whole computer here, so I could just, it's just like, it's a lot like a Sublime Text or Atom or Microsoft Visual Code or whatever like environment. It just happens to be in my web browser instead. Cool. So that's kind of projects. I could also be like, I'm going to rename this to SCSS, and it's just kind of going to know what I mean. It's going to be like, okay, that's a Sass file, so I'll just process that for you down into CSS. So in this case, we haven't taken advantage of any of Sass's features like at all. So the processed version of it's going to look exactly the same. Notice it's warning me that that's a output of a preprocessor, but it went away. The background salmon went away, and that's because this file doesn't exist anymore. We renamed it, and now it's created this other file. I can always get my hands on it by saying copy relative path, just a little helper, select the file in there, and then just paste it. It's just kind of a little helper to let us know what's up. And now we're back to light salmon. Cool. And we could say maybe that's like our favorite color. So favorite color is light salmon, and use that as a variable. Now we're in Sass territory, right? Like this isn't valid CSS anymore. That's just Sass. That's going to process down as we expect it. And there we go. We could also do that thing I mentioned in the beginning. We could have like typography.scss. And this is just a convention that is in a lot of languages that we made totally ubiquitous in the project editor, is that anything with an underscore that starts, it doesn't attempt to process all by itself. Notice style.scss made a processed version of itself, but this underscore typography did not. It's a Sass convention, but any of the languages here in the project editor behave in that way. And let's say we did body, font, family, Comic Sans, and save it. That's not going to apply right away because we haven't included it here, but this is that other thing that we wish we could do in the pen editor, but you kind of can't. Import typography. And hopefully that runs and works. I think that's maybe not how you do Comic Sans. Is it just one word or something? Body, Comic Sans. Maybe you don't quote it or something. Or maybe it's just one word. Comic Sans. Maybe I don't have it installed on my computer. But I do have like Lato installed, right? So if I applied that, it would be working. Yeah, anyway, the Sass part is working. We could change font size or something. Font size is 150%. Just so we can verify that these Sass files are being kind of compiled together and all that kind of thing. Comic Sans MS. Boom. Thanks, Jordan. If it works, it worked. Yes. So it's a Microsoft thing. I didn't even know that. I learn stuff all the time. I assume the MS stands for Microsoft. perfectly readable font. Love it. Beautiful. Cool. So that's just multiple HTML files and Sass. Maybe let's do a little more on this project before we look around. If you have any questions, let me know, of course. Let's make index.pug. Let's just delete these. I'm just going to delete them. It's verifying that as I delete them, this is not going to have anything to render anymore, and it's going to let us know that. Let's make index.pug. So if you've never heard of pug, maybe you've heard of Jade. It's paid. The Jade like doesn't exist anymore. It's pug is the new thing, right? And I can go. I wonder if let's see doc type HTML. I can go HTML. This is how you do attributes in Jade. And then there's a head section where the title is like my project. And the body is h1 hello. So that's like how you'd make a document in Pug. It's going to process into an index.html file, and that's what we're going to preview. So that's pretty easy. To get back to where we were, we'd go link rel is a style sheet. And I think you can comma separate these or not. href, and then let me copy that relative path again and save it. And we're kind of back to our Comic Sans and all that beautiful stuff. Now, this is kind of sweet. This is fine. If you just like abstraction of your HTML and like the syntax, that's fine. I don't mind it, but that's not like the power of Pug to me, if you ask me. Let's make a folder in here because you can do that as well. It's not just a flat directory of stuff. I'm going to say layout, I guess. And just make a folder called layout. It's just an empty folder. It just sits in there. I'm literally going to make a new file called layout because I don't want it to process layout.pug. And then I'm going to take this stuff that I just did in index and put it in here instead. But instead, in the body, I'm going to say block content. That's a little unusual, right? Block content. And then in my index.pug, I'm going to say extends, and then here's the folder layout, and the file is underscore layout. So if I just hit save here, it should process this down, and it'll still look like it'll have the whole doc type and empty body and all that. But then block content is this h1 my page. So my index.pug file has become really, really simple. Right? Like it has this layout that it uses that has all the style sheet, and it could have scripts and all that. So we could even go block scripts and load like a script in here with a special source or whatever. And then it would kind of combine. Then if the index page had its own script, I could go source or script, source equals whatever. And it would have both of those scripts on that page kind of thing. Here's another thing, block footer. I could say in this particular footer, this, how do you do just text in Pug? It's a pipe. This is the footer of the home page. I don't know if this will process because there is no block ready for it, but see, it'll be like, dude, there is no block footer in your layout. So if in our layout, we'll make sure that we have a block footer. That's where that content is going to go. And then this is the footer of my home page. Okay, cool, right? So it's just an abstraction that allows for includes in a really useful way. So now that, now I want to make a home page, I want to make a contact page, I want to make all these pages. Now I can go like about.pug and copy this stuff, paste this stuff in here, call this the about page. This is the footer of the about page now. And I can like make multi-page sites a lot easier. So that's the about page. This is the index page. I can switch between them through this editor. I could make navigation to get there as well, but it's convenient in that way. It's beyond the concept of just an include. And the layout can use includes too. So if I were to go like block nav, I wouldn't even do that. I would go include nav, and it's going to say that that doesn't exist, probably. No such file. Okay, new file, nav.pug. In here, I could be like nav, ul, li, a, href is to the home page, and this is home page. Another li, href, about.html is about page. Cool, I've like made some navigation, but just as a little chunk. And now because it's part of the layout, and the layout includes the nav, it's just on all the pages. So as I bounce between these two pages, that's cool. So anyway, it's just kind of I don't know, this is how I would probably approach building any kind of website. Like when you work in WordPress or whatever, it's like there's like, include header is like just a fundamental concept of building a theme, because of course I only want to have one place where I'm controlling kind of this overall layout of the site. And Pug makes for that pretty easily. It's something you absolutely really would have struggled to do in the pen editor. Will you allow customizing the view so you can move the preview and editor? Yeah, probably. I mean, if you look at new pen, I can do that in a new window. There's like more customization here. Of course, you can resize the editors left and right. You can do that, but up and down here, which is okay. And this, I mean, it's a little bit comfortable in that way. But in the pen editor, of course, you can do, if I say change view, I can put those editors on the top. I can put them on the left. That kind of thing is not yet available in projects. What is available is that like sometimes this feels a little cramped, and it's just we're kind of constrained by the browser window in a way there. It's just as big as a browser window is. The bigger your screen, the more kind of comfortable it becomes. But I think a lot of us are used to like coding in one window and seeing the results in a totally different window, right? Like you're, Sublime on the left, browser on the right kind of thing, which we do kind of accommodate in a couple of different ways. So you kind of automatically get full page view. So I could open a link to this project in full page view and see the full result of it. And I could just be like, I don't want to see that anymore, close it. And then you're automatically in this kind of multiple page editing view. So instead of my project, I'll call this my home page or whatever. Home page, and refresh, and this isn't going to refresh until I refresh the page over here, and then it will. So whatever, you get that for free, but you might as well try out a couple of different views. Debug view is the same one except for no CodePen UI. So you see this top one has this, it's kind of shareable and people can see who made it and what the title of the project is. Debug view is only for you. So you can't really share this, but it knows that I'm logged in as me, or if I'm pro, you kind of can share it. But anyway, this is kind of an authenticated view, but at least you don't have to see any CodePen UI while you're working on it. And this is useful for like, there's no iframe, there's nothing going on here. If I open up the console on this page, oh, it's looking for a favicon that doesn't exist. You could put a favicon in here. Yeah, there's nothing to prevent it. If I had some JavaScript, which we might as well do, new file, script.js. In the script, ooh, that's weird that it launches autocomplete there immediately. Var foo equals bar or whatever. Hit save. In my layout, I say at the bottom of my body, there's script. The source is script.js. I save and run it. And then I refresh my debug view here. I can go, what's foo? Oops, foo. And it's going to be like, it's bar, because it just knows, There's no iframe preventing it. If I refresh this page and open up the console and say, what's foo? It's going to be like, that's not a thing that exists, because foo only exists inside of this iframe or whatever. And you can fix that. It's not terribly difficult. You just move it to this context and then type foo. But like every time you refresh this page, then, hey, what's foo again? I don't know. You didn't change the context. Back to this other thing. So whatever. It's just kind of, it's a little bit more useful to see an unfettered view of your project here a little bit. That's not even the coolest view. The coolest view then is actually live view. So you open up that thing. It's the same kind of thing as debug view, only there is a little CodePen JavaScript involved here because it just automatically refreshes when we hit save and run. So let's change a color to make it a little bit more obvious. Let's say light green. Is that a color? It is. If we hit save and run here, I don't have to do anything to this view over here. It just automatically refreshes, as we saw. I didn't have to touch anything. It just kind of refreshed. So I can work over here, see the results over here, and it's all happening in the browser. I can also test that. We covered a little bit about testing last week, but for example, you can even go big here. I could go to my cross-browser testing account, which allows you to kind of test on like mobile devices and all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can open live view. I could open it in Firefox too while we're logging in here. Let's bring up a bunch of browsers to see how this might work. I could open Safari. Why didn't that work? We have a CodePen account, I think. There it goes. So I have a bunch of projects open, all in live view. I'm gonna try, let's try Edge. I can't launch Edge on this Mac. So that would be a useful thing to have. It's gonna launch this test. It's kind of sweet. It's not like a screenshot of what this page looks like in Edge. It's like a real version of Edge that fired up on some other computer. So I now have 4 copies of this thing open. Ooh, what's another color? I'd have to wait too long. I think there's too much delay for the chat room, but let's see. Ooh, isn't Rebecca purple? That's a named after Eric Meyer's daughter. Boom, boom, boom. Ooh, come on, Firefox. You got this. Ooh, that was the worst demo. Apparently there's something weird with the WebSocket. No. Anyway, use Chrome. It works great. Let's try it again. I wonder if there's just a weird one. Let's go back to light green. Come on. Okay, well, there's a bug. Bugs happen. I'm going to take a screenshot of that so I remember to fix it when we're done. By the time you try it, it's going to work probably. That is kind of funny though. It just died. I wonder if there's a bug in the console that is like, explains it. No console bugs. Sorry, I know this isn't it's a debug hour. Anyway, it was happy in Safari and Chrome. This usually works. It should, the same feature is available in the Pen editor, and it should work cross-browser friendly. Every time I've ever demoed it worked, except for this time, of course. So that's just that. There's way more to this. What if we wanted to use? Let's see. In our index, we had inside the block content. We had like some features. So dot features is like, it's almost like an emmet. That's going to make a div with a class of features. And there's feature, feature, feature. So let's just look at the HTML that it produces. Div features, feature, feature, feature. Yeah, cool. So that's what we have there in our style. We don't really need to be looking at the processed version. Let's just go to style.css here and say, any given feature is background black, color white, and it has a min height so we can see it of 100 pixels. We still probably won't be able to see it because they have no width either. We'd probably have to go in here and be like, this is a feature. I'm going to delete these two so I can Command-Shift-D some more of them. And we should be able to see it now. It's only on the index page, right? Feature, feature, feature. This is a feature. Let's say we wanted to lay those out 3 in a row with Flexbox or something. So features is display flex. That's going to put them all in a row as soon as we refresh, right? Feature, 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 3 in a row. Very cool. We are writing Sass here, so I could nest these if I wanted to, right? Like that. And let's say we wanted to get them to stretch all the way across the screen. Flex 1, that would do that. Cool. Margin 1 rem or something would push them away from each other in case you wanted space. All that kind of stuff. So let's say you're like, but I want the deepest possible browser support in the world for Flexbox. If I look at the output of this, it's going to give me what I expect. Display flex. Each one of these has flex 1 with the margin rem or whatever. But there's no prefixing for Flexbox. which is still probably a good idea to get the deepest possible support for Flexbox. How would I do that? I could write a Sass mixin that outputs those features for projects, or I mean for DisplayFlex or whatever. But why do that when you can just turn on auto prefixer? That's something that's available in the pen editor as well as here. You have some options for processing. So what I did is I just clicked settings. Settings is the settings for the whole project. So there's some convenient stuff in here like giving the project a title, doing a demo of projects. I can make any project a template in case this is just a base set of files that I want to be able to easily extend, make it public or private, that kind of thing. Some things like I prefer tabs, 4 spaces. It'll make sure all your files kind of follow that convention. Just comfortable stuff. I'll just save the project, make sure that's happy. And open settings again and go under the processing tab. This is what I mean about the Flexbox and all the prefixes stuff. I can just turn on auto prefixer and it's just going to say any CSS that I process, even if I don't have a preprocessor turned on, even if I just make check.css, no preprocessor, it's still going to process it, you'll notice, because it's going to send it through auto prefixer. So I'll delete that. In this case now, because auto prefixer is turned on, I look at processed and it didn't do anything. Let's see, I think maybe I have to make a change. I'll add a space. Or maybe auto prefixers decided it doesn't need them anymore. No, you just had to make a change. Now you can see that it added some prefixes. What auto prefixer has intelligently determined is the correct amount of prefixes for Flexbox it has given it. So it's some Microsoft versions of it, I guess there. So that's kind of convenient. You know, if you're using a bunch of modern-ish CSS, you might as well just flip on auto prefixer and have it deal with that kind of stuff for you. Now, it's asking you some other questions about processing as well, like, do you want me to do the same kind of thing for JavaScript, meaning you can write const and let and arrow functions and imports and all the stuff you can do, like in ES6 is what happens in Babel, right? Babel is the kind of the auto prefixer of JavaScript in a way. You can flip that on, and it's just a lot of the reason you'd want to use Babel is because you're using it in like a Webpack ES6 kind of world. So we just kind of tied those two things together and said, well, pick your entry point file, which is the place that you can do all your imports. That gives you the ability to do things like, I'll probably have the syntax wrong, but you know, my function from another module or whatever, and it's gonna like go find that function from there, or you go import star or whatever, that just that way that like modern JavaScript is written kind of thing. Now you can't do like node modules. I see even Tyler or Tice is asking, can we run node in CodePen projects? Like kind of not really. You can't just run just some node code and export it. Like that's just not something that's supported. It's all front end action here. It'd be cool one day perhaps to offer all kinds of backend languages, but you can't. Not only can you not run node, but you can't like have a package.json file in here that's going to pull in node modules and stuff. Maybe someday that would be really cool. We all agree that that would be a neat thing to have available. You can't. I mean, you can put your package.json file here, but it's not going to like pull in your node modules or anything. So sorry about that. There is if I go to the homepage really quick though, I think Mr. AZ Alex has created a how to fake it, faking node modules and projects. So he's made like a fake node modules folder here and pulled stuff in. So here's the JavaScript for that. He's, you know, import React from React, import React DOM from React DOM. And now it's kind of like how you would almost use node modules. You know, this would probably be full of folders with a bunch of other stuff in here, but you kind of can do ES6 like stuff. So could we ever run something like React Storybook through projects? React Storybook through projects. Probably. I imagine it's React, so it's mostly a front end kind of thing. The trick would be like, you know, what do they? Oh, there's some server like stuff in here, huh? I wonder if it's required to, yeah, it looks like there's some express action probably that deals with routing URLs and stuff. Maybe it'll work. I mean, there's React Router, which is all a front end thing. So I don't know. You know, it's probably going to have to play around. Oh, look at how popular this thing is. I'm going to star it. They deserve it. Maybe. I don't know. You know, it's kind of above my head, perhaps a little bit. I'd like to make it work if we possibly could, but yeah, if it requires like middleware running, it kind of looks like it probably won't work, unfortunately. But most React stuff does, and thankfully, you know, this was probably our #1 request ever on CodePen before this dropped, was the why can't I import things as modules? That seems like how everybody does things these days, kind of thing. Yeah, it'll get better, I promise. It's totally on our roadmap, these things. Matthew asked about post CSS being supported in projects. Not really. I mean, auto prefixer is post CSS, so it actually runs in a way. It's just tricky to say, oh, Spotify, hey, howdy everybody. I love Spotify. It's not in my doc though. I'm so embarrassed. Sorry, I should put it back there. I'm just such an Apple nerd. I like do the Apple Music thing. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Sorry, Spotify's better. Matthew is asking about post CSS, which is something that we offer in the pen editor, right? But even in the pen editor, it's fairly limited. So if you want to write in post CSS in the pen editor, you just turn on post CSS. Okay, now your stuff's being processed through post CSS, which I think a lot of us know isn't, it doesn't do anything. Like, I can see the processed version now, but post CSS doesn't actually do anything by itself. Post CSS enables other plugins. So we have a lot of them. So you can click add an add-on, and it'll be like, oh, do you want to use variables? Sure. Well, you're going to have to use it. And then this is how you add variables. So now they work like Sass. So now I can do the red is red thing, background red. I can save it. Now I'm using post CSS. The way that you use plugins is this use syntax, and the use syntax is a post CSS plugin, so super meta. And we support a bunch of post CSS plugins. So you go in here and say need an add-on, and there's like you can scroll through them and even search them. Like what are the ones that are for variables, and use all of them. But they're whitelisted, and they're whitelisted by us that we've determined they're popular and they're worth. I don't know, they seem like they have some backing or they're official in some way or something. So, right, you can't just use any post CSS plugin in the world. And I shouldn't even say that because Jonathan Neal figured out there is some blog post somewhere that I should have handy, like use any post CSS plugin in CodePen. There is some tricky, weird way. Oh, and it's a blog post. Oh, we blogged it that points to the to Jonathan's blog post on how you do it. There is some tricky way that you can do this. It's probably worth reading this because I bet this works for projects too, but it's a little tricky and it requires some ahead of time work and stuff to get it to work. But in projects, it's like there's no file extension for post CSS. So you can't go style.post CSS. Nobody does that anyway. It's not really a thing. It's going to warn you that you can't do that. Sure. So like, I just don't know what you'd do. I guess you'd call it style.css and use the same syntax, but just the way things are processed in this world is, oh, that's weird. It probably shouldn't have let me do that because see how it made two of the same exact file name there then? That's a little bug. Delete file. Hopefully it goes back to working because only one file exists now. So it'd have to be like a global setting, like use post CSS on all my files. Maybe we could make that work, but I'm not sure. Hopefully I didn't ruin the world here. Oh, it made that file. And then, so I think if I just refresh this, now it'll blow out that other file and start working again. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so sorry, I don't know. I know people like post CSS. I think it's pretty cool too, but yeah, auto prefixer is what works in projects for now and not anything else post CSS related. So it's kind of fun. This was a, this nice little demo that shows how you can kind of fake node modules for now. There's a lot of interesting things. I'll look at some of my own projects that I've built. One was I'm hoping to move to Bend, Oregon in the fall, And I was made a little page that shows off all the cool things that make me love Bend. And I was kind of trying to convince my fiance that it would be a good idea. This shows off, not so much the styling. I mean, whatever. It's just a styled page. It has some modules on it and whatever. It shows off some stuff, but it shows how images can be like a first-class citizen of your project in a way. And that I just can upload them right in here. Let's see, I have an image right here that I shot to remind myself of that bug. I can just drag and drop it onto here and release it, and it will upload the thing, even though the file name is not allowed because it's long and weird. I could say bug. I'll drag that on there. It should be cool with bug. Right, all I had to do is drag and drop it, and it just uploads it, and it becomes a part of just this project, and I can preview it here and stuff. The drag and drop thing is really quite convenient. So I know we don't have, a lot of people right when we launched it are like, it should have GitHub integration. Like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool, although there's so many Git repos that require your package.json file and stuff that we don't support yet. So maybe that would come when we have a little bit more support. So, but still, it'd be cool to import from GitHub. But even so, let's see, GitHub, I could probably find like a Team CSS Tricks project. I hardly ever use the CSS Tricks GitHub account anymore, but it had some old demos on it that were, I'm thinking it's like super front end. How do you switch to your profile? It shows the things I'm involved with. Here's one. And like, okay, anything zoomer. Let's give it a shot. I could go like download the project, download it as a zip, and then make a new project, and then open up it. And I have this folder full of stuff that is that GitHub repo. I'm making a new project. And I should just be able to grab all this stuff. Hopefully. I think there's kind of limits of how many you can upload at a time. So maybe it'll be cool. 25 at a time. So let's start small. Here's a bunch of them. Oh, yeesh. Drag and drop onto a modal. Didn't like. Here's some. Git uploading. Ooh, it doesn't like one of these files. Which one? JSON, Markdown, JS. Oh, this license, I bet it doesn't like, because it just doesn't have any file. I think that's it, maybe. It should probably allow files that don't have a thing. That seems weird that it didn't like that. And let's upload these folders. We probably don't need the dist one. So anyway, it's not that hard to move a GitHub repo over here, really. You just kind of do it. So index.html, what's wrong with this? HTTPS resources, that's kind of important because of it's HTTPS only, this world. So CSS anything zoomer, why didn't that? That should link up okay. Demo style.css should link up okay. Maybe I just need to run it again. What is it not liking? 404 for just a couple of files. Or maybe some JavaScript is breaking or something. Save all and run. Oh, it's on the README right now. If I go to the index file though, yeah, that should work. Cool. Whatever. This is some old CSS Tricks demo where you could like zoom in on a small calendar and it would show you stuff. I wonder if the image one is working. Oh yeah, that's fun. I have never tried this. I'm glad that worked so well. Yeah, so I moved a GitHub repo into CodePen projects just to play with it easier. Like, why would you ever do that? You would do it because now it's part of like the CodePen universe. People can like it and comment on it in this world, and it becomes searchable and forkable and just kind of part of the world of CodePen, which isn't so bad of an idea, probably. You can't lose it. You can't have it just on your desktop and spill water on your computer and lose it forever kind of thing. It just doesn't hurt to have things in the cloud sometime. But more than that, the best thing is that this is a fairly comfortable editor that you can work on with anybody. But you can see it too, like unless you can do GitHub pages for front-end stuff, which isn't particularly difficult. But it's kind of cool to be looking at the code and the result of that code at the same time. It's kind of the big value proposition, really, of CodePen in a way. So that's cool. Let's see. The follow up on the post CSS thing is I just like using post CSS plugins for CSS, like the Babel for like transpiling future features and stuff. Yeah, sure. I agree. I think that's probably the #1 use case of post CSS is just like, I don't know, use CSS Next as a plugin and just let it kind of do stuff. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I know this is kind of a just we're talking about CodePen here and not like the future of CSS or whatever, but there's certain things that kind of rub me the wrong way about like promising that future CSS features are polyfilled using this kind of thing, because there's, you know, a big one is variables. So there's like, I don't know, it feels weird to work in this old demo or whatever, but you know, perhaps some of you have seen this. You can go like padding is 20 pixels or whatever, and that's future CSS for a variable. And then you can go padding is var, do you have to use the dashes? I think you do. Like that's a modern version of a variable that you don't need any pre-processing for at all. But it's a little different in that like this is now applied to the body, but like if I had this as a div, I could go actually on the body, the padding is 30 pixels or whatever. And that's like not really something you can replicate now with pre-processing very easily, because like which one of these things do you use? It actually would be 30 pixels because this is actually the HTML element, and through cascading, this variable is now changed to 30 pixels. So 30 pixels is what gets output here. Maybe some preprocessor is smart enough to suss that out and figure it out, but not always. And then there's like JavaScript can get its hands on this and change it, and then it live changes on the page. Like native CSS custom properties are not the same as variables and preprocessors. Variables and preprocessors just like figures out what this value is and replaces it, and it's just a thing to be dry, and that's it, really, you know. Whereas CSS custom properties can do lots of more interesting things. Not only do they cascade, but you can get your hands on them and change them in different ways, and just have live calculations on them. That's different. And so when you promise someone like, oh, it's not quite like Babel, where it's just like, oh, this is a convenient syntax, but it can compile down to something else. Like these are actually like fundamentally different concepts. So it's like, it's weird. They're going to behave differently in different browsers if you choose to compile them differently. Anyway, that's an aside, total weird aside thing. CodePen projects can do lots of stuff. Maybe we can look at a few more things of what other people have been doing with it. It really, the you know, you can do anything you want. There's not something necessarily that's just uniquely perfect for projects, because it's just anything that you can do with front end. Ooh, this one has crazy audio stuff. I don't know if the live streaming is set up to bring that audio over or not. View and tachyons. Ooh, it's a style guide. Wasn't somebody just asking about style guide materials? Upload yours. Oh, this is like a live style guide creator based on a CSS file. That's kind of cool. Do you still favor Sass variables over CSS variables? No, they're just different. You know, I'd use Sass variables for things like, this is our font stack on this site, and you probably need to use that font stack in 5 different places. So I'm just going to make a Sass variable and use it in 5 different places. That's drying up code with a processor variable. I'd use CSS custom properties when I need to do live compilation of those in some kind of way. And I know that's a little abstract, but the difference between CSS variables and preprocessor variables. I was more eloquent in the post that I wrote about that use which one over the other. They're just different beasts is all really. Okay, it's been about an hour. Thanks people for hanging out with me and asking questions and stuff. I'll probably do this every single week because I think it's kind of fun and whatever. Any questions in the world anybody has about CodePen, this is just one of the many ways you can get them answered. If you have one that's more pressing, we're always on Twitter answering questions. Happy to help over email. There's support links all over the site we get to and stuff. So don't have to wait or anything, but whatever. All right. Oh, I think that looks like Tommy Hodgins' avatar. What's up, everybody? Cool. Take it easy. See you next time. Bye bye.